Yes, during this symposium, we've learned many valuable lessons as to how we can sow peace. Let's all be determined to do so with all our heart. And what will be the final result? For the answer, let's watch the final dramatization of this symposium.
There's one more story to tell. I didn't know it at the time, but seeds of truth were being planted in my heart. You were all so different. I couldn't understand it. You were prisoners, yes, but you felt free. Truly free. After you were released, it became clear to me that you have God's blessing. And I wanted to know why. Phil helped me find the answer. And you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free. Phil encouraged me to make the truth my own, though I had real trouble at first. With all the turmoil going on at the time, the idea of being peaceable and waiting on God's kingdom, it was hard to grasp. But with Jehovah's help and the patience of these good people, I was baptized before the start of the Great Tribulation.
Joseph, during our time in prison, the story of your life, your time in prison, and how Jehovah was always with you became a real source of strength for us. I remember one day, Carl said, what did you say?
I said, one day we'll have a meal with Joseph, and we'll say, thank you.
And here we are.
Really, it's I who should thank you. Each and every one of your stories touches my heart. You know a lot about my life, but would it be all right if I shared a few more stories?
Please, we have so many questions.
Can you tell us about Egypt?
What was Pharaoh really like?
Dreams. We gotta talk about those dreams.
You do have many questions, and I have many details to share. And thanks to our God Jehovah, we have all the time we need.
What a touching video. If we wholeheartedly sow peace, we'll save ourselves and those who listen to us.
Yes, let's all sow peas, because as Stephen Letter's already told us, if you sow tomato seeds, you get tomatoes. So if you sow peas, presumably you'll get peas. Wow. Well, what can I say? I think they're running out of ideas at this point. I think that the teaching committee, the writing committee, whoever's responsible for this propaganda, they're really clutching at straws. The ending there, I'm sure they intended to be really dramatic and spine-tingling. Oh, look, the big reveal. It's Joseph, sans technicolor dreamcoat, sat at the table in paradise, and people are asking him questions about his dreams and what it was like to be speaking to Pharaoh. That's what it's come to. That's the best they've got. You have this already tired trope of the prison guard who's charged with persecuting Jehovah's Witnesses, being overwhelmed by their fine display of Christian values, and eventually becoming a Jehovah's Witness himself. We've seen that before in Jehovah's Witness propaganda. We've also seen depictions of Jehovah's Witnesses huddled together during the Great Tribulation. It was done, of course, in the 2016 Remain Loyal to Jehovah convention, and I did a video on the infamous bunker videos. Thumbnail here if Tibor is gracious. Again, I just don't think this convention has come anywhere close to the awfulness that we saw in the 2016 convention. Yes, you could say this dramatization has visited some very doomsday themes, but it hasn't done so in the appalling way that the bunker videos did. The bunker videos singled out Kevin, someone who wasn't spiritually strong, and made it very clear that he didn't make it, even though he was a Jehovah's Witness. Because he wasn't willing to preach outside his work, he was, we assume, fireball fodder. Whereas the Jehovah's Witnesses who took their faith seriously were to survive. And you even had the scene at the end where the police bust in and there's this standoff. You don't really see that here. You just see Jehovah's Witnesses huddled together in what we can only assume is an attic. Not this attic, I can reveal. And again, you have this plot twist at the end, which probably most people could see coming a mile off, where it turns out they're all sat at a table in paradise with a Bible character. I mean, just think this through. This is what I've been saying for ages. The more you think about paradise, or the paradise teaching that Jehovah's Witnesses have, the more it unravels. And depicting it in this way doesn't do the organization any favors, because all you really need to do is think about this. So you have, let's say, 8 million Armageddon survivors on a paradise Earth. So this is immediately following Armageddon, and during the course of the 1,000 years, everyone who has ever died before Armageddon, including people like Vlad the Impaler, including Osama bin Laden, including the conquistadors, including the most notorious characters in history, Joseph Stalin, you name it, they all gradually get resurrected so that they get an opportunity to become Jehovah's Witnesses, which would swell Earth's population, which is already struggling now at nearly 8 billion, to tens of billions. And how many Bible characters do you have? You know, there's only one Joseph to go around, isn't there? So let's ignore the tens of billions that end up being Earth's population. Let's say, for the sake of argument, that it's right after Armageddon and there are only 8.5 million people on the planet. There's one Joseph to 8.5 million people. What are the chances of any single Jehovah's Witness sitting down for a meal with Joseph? I would argue it's about as likely as me sitting down for a meal with the Queen of England, quite frankly. It's just this fantasy that they're pushing to try and make the paradise more appealing. It's that carrot being dangled once more. What they're doing is they're turning the paradise myth, the paradise fantasy, into some kind of Bible theme park where almost every day is an opportunity to sit down with a Bible character and learn firsthand what they went through. I mean, the odds just aren't in your favor of that ever happening, even if the paradise fantasy were to happen, which of course it can't. It's just insane when you subject it to any scrutiny whatsoever. And that's before we even start thinking about the depiction of Joseph here. Oh God, I'm going to go down a rabbit hole. So they've depicted Joseph as someone who speaks perfect English, which of course he wouldn't have done. So already we're learning that English is the new standard language, which immediately steamrollers over the language and traditions of other cultures. What if other languages and other cultures have better systems of communication than English? This is a very Western-centric portrayal of what life in paradise will be like. And how come Joseph is portrayed as having a Middle Eastern appearance, or you could even say an Egyptian appearance, while at the same time, whenever they do these Bible dramas, as we've seen repeated in this very convention, whenever they show individuals like Jonah or Josiah, it's white dudes with fake beards. How come Joseph gets to be authentically Middle Eastern in his looks, whereas other Bible characters are again Caucasian and wearing fake beards? Notice Joseph has had to have a shave because beards aren't allowed in paradise. There's another thing to think about. So again, the more pixels you add to this paradise fantasy, the more you try to depict it with all of the utensils and jugs and plates and Bible characters, the more material you give Jehovah's Witnesses for them to ponder on. And the more they ponder, the more this whole paradise fantasy is surely going to unravel.